cells of a plant similar? Well, that's going to take a little bit more work, and it would have taken you one step to go look at what an amoeba was, because some of you may not know what an amoeba was. If you know it's a single-celled organism that lives out in the world all by itself, then that probably would have been enough to answer the question. But okay, let's assume that you don't know that and you've never seen an amoeba. You need to know what it is. Well, a quick Google search would look like this. Pretty scary looking thing. Has all kinds of little legs sticking out here and there. It has, these little pseudopods sticking out. Actually, that's what it uses to move around on the table, or it actually lives in water, so from one rock to another. It's a single-celled organism with all its little organelles, chock full of little organelles. It has this nice little thing here we call a contractile vacuole, and that actually helps control water. Gee, that you have to think about this. You have to think about what this little organism has to go through in its day-to-day life. So, okay, the stomata is a little bit easier. You read about it if you looked at the picture that they gave you in a previous question and they discussed in the reading. The stomata have these things called guard cells, and they sit on either side of an opening and underneath a leaf. So here you have this leaf, and this leaf underneath it has, of course, what does the leaf have to do? It has to bring in CO2. It has to bring in H2O. Where's water coming in? How's the water? Well, it's not actually bringing in. It's letting water out. It doesn't actually bring water in. It stops water from going out. So it doesn't want to lose water when it's taking in CO2. The little mouths, the little openings underneath the leaf. That's where you find these little things called stomata and guard cells. These holes underneath the leaves, they allow oxygen in, carbon dioxide in and oxygen out. So in goes carbon dioxide, and oxygen goes in. So then you have an gas exchange out with, when oxygen comes out, so does H2O, gas H2O. Just like when you breathe out air, water comes out with it. And it's this gas form of H2O that the guard cells have to be careful not to let too much out of. When you're breathing a lot, your mouth, sometimes you'll notice, especially if it's dry air, like in your furnace in your home that's warmed with forced air. As you're breathing out, you'll find that your mouth gets really dry. My mouth is actually a little dry right now, and as you're breathing out, you're losing water from your tissues because water evaporates, and that evaporation of water creates that dry mouth. Well, plants have that problem too. The problem is plants can't get up and go to the sink to get some water, so they have to be able to shut that down, to be able to close that off and control the water leaving the leaf as they're trying to let CO2 in and O2 out. So remember, these are also gases in the air. So this is all part of regulating. A plant would regulate the water loss. And remember, this plant is made of probably trillions of cells. Trillions of cells. If you can think of a tree and all the cells involved in a tree, I think trillions is an underestimation. But well, maybe not. But trillions, I think, is a fair estimation of how many cells are involved in, let's say, a redwood tree and all its leaves that it leaves every year, all the cells in its roots and in its trunk all the way up to the top and all the stems. So that's a multicellular organism, very complicated, has all kinds of tissues, and we'll look into all the different kinds of tissues that trees and plants have. But these cells, these guard cells, help control the water leaving and the water coming in, or rather leaving, because it doesn't actually allow water to come in. The roots of the plants are where water actually comes in to the stem, which then leaves off into the leaves of this plant. Now, this tiny little amoeba down here, it doesn't have that. It doesn't have any tissues, any cells to help it protect it from water leaving, or too much. What if it finds itself in too much? What if too much water's coming in? What's it going to do? What if there's not enough water? Where's it going to get water? It's an amoeba. It can't, like the plant, it can't move around, but also, like, unlike the plant, it doesn't have other cells helping it, supporting it, protecting it. So this amoeba has this thing called a contractile vacuole. Now, this was a quick search on the internet. I'm using Google. I searched for the word amoeba, and I found the picture earlier and this picture here. And it tells you right here in this picture, it says a contractile vacuole is one of those organelles found in specific cells, mostly in single-celled organisms, that allows water to be excreted to excrete water and waste if it gets too much water. It also can store the water, and the amoeba can reabsorb it in times of drought. So you see, the amoeba needs a place to store that water, to regulate the water. So both the guard cells of the plant and the contractile vacuoles of the amoeba both regulate water. They help maintain homeostasis for these two living things, two completely different things, one being a plant and the other being a single-celled organism. Both need regulation. They both need to keep that constant level of water in their system. Now, if you started answering the questions in order, you would have saw question number 34. And actually, had you answered that one first, I think it would have helped you. It definitely would have helped you answer number 35, and it would not have helped you with 36. But I think 36, most of us understand and know what some of the major organ systems of the body are. And if you didn't, you could always look up main organ systems. And you could probably, and I could tell you for sure, you could look up the 4 major organ systems involved in maintaining homeostasis, and you'll get a fairly decent response from Google. But okay, let's take a look at the drawing, just the figure 10.5 from your reading, and let's see if that helps us answer the questions. Describe how plants maintain their water level balance, or their water balance. And the answer should include one reason the balance is important in plants, structure, and the plants have to perform this function, and the structure, how the structure works to maintain water balance. Well, okay, let's think about it. Plant has its leaf. Oh, what a horrible leaf. Let me redraw that. Okay. Plant has its leaf, and it has maybe has a flower, has roots. Okay, of course the ground is there. So here we have this plant, and it's going to get the water. It's going to rain. Raindrops keep falling on my head, and the water keeps flowing into the roots. The water gets absorbed and up into the plants, and the plants are all happy. But the plants also need to breathe. Well, how is that plant going to end up sucking up or breathing? How does it end up bringing in the oxygen, bringing in the carbon dioxide and expelling the oxygen? Well, it needs mouths or noses, and these are underneath the leaves. These little mouths sit. And these structures are called stomata, and the stomata are this opening. Okay, this opening is a stomata. All right. So when it's open, obviously CO2 is going in, and when it's closed, nothing's going in and out. So here's this plant. It can't move. Wherever it is, if the sun's shining or if it's raining, one of the two is happening. If the sun's shining, the little thing has to breathe in order for it to be able to do what it does. As that sun shines down and the CO2 is going in and the O2 is coming out, right? What else is going to happen? What happens to us when we're sitting in the sun? If any of you ever sat in the sun, you know one of the first things you start to do is sweat. Well, so does the plant. If the plant's going to put out this, along with the oxygen, it's going to put out water through this opening. So one of the things that plants do is they close the stomata. When on the hottest part of the day, they close that stomata so that they don't lose too much water. Because if they lose too much water, they die. They can't go out and get a drink of water from a faucet or go down to the stream. They're stuck wherever they are. All plants are they're just plainly stuck. They're rooted into the ground, literally. So when the stomata are closed, they're not breathing, they're not taking in CO2, but they're also not losing water. Water's not being lost. So if they open these things, some plants can actually only open them at night and close them during the day. Others just close them during the hottest part of the day. But in any case, the point is that when it's hot, the stomata are closed so that the plant loses the least amount of water through its leaves. The plant wants water. The plant needs water. It can't live without it. So, and neither can any of us. But the plant can't go get more water if it runs out. So it tries to keep that water as best it can by closing the stomata whenever possible, as these guard cells close off. Why is water balance important, especially for plants? Well, water is necessary for plants for a lot of things, for it to keep its structure. Remember, we talked about Tucher pressure in plants, that whole idea of osmosis, and as more water is going in, the plant cell gets stiffer. The plant cell is able to stand up erect. There's a reason this leaf, if you ever see a droopy plant, when you see a droopy plant, that's because it's running out of water. That poor little plant's dying because the little leaves, the water has been lost through the leaves, and there's not enough water coming in from its roots. So a droopy plant is when the plant has lost a lot of that water pressure inside the cells. There's plants that are stiff and have a nice leaf system that have their stomata opening and closing the way they're supposed to, and the minimum amount of water leaving the stomata, those plants are healthier and stiffer, and they're standing up straight, and the flowers are open and not droopy the way you see some plants that are drooping or ready to die. So obviously the structure for the plants to control this water in and out is the stomata. And how does the structure work to maintain water balance? As I just said, during the hottest part of the day, the stomata close. They stop the water from leaving the plant. When the day is cooler, or in the case of some plants, at night, the stomata open, and theoretically the air is cooler. There's less loss of water through these openings while it breathes. Okay, so that explains those three questions. I hope that helped. Okay, here's a question that was asked by another student. This question number 19. It was related, so I thought I'd make sure to answer this one as well. Here's 19. It says, what are the main functions of the cells indicated by the black pointer? Well, that cell is that stomata, that whole area where the leaf is. Remember, you have a leaf, and if you have a leaf, you have little veins in it. And these veins, not all leaves have veins, but what most leaves do have are these openings in the bottom on the backside. You have those openings, those two guard cells sitting along the stomata, and when the guard cells close, there's no opening. When the guard cells kind of do one of these little curvy changes to their structure, the stomata is open. When the stomata is open, air can get in and out, but so can water. So it's regulating water and gases. Remember, the water that's leaving the leaf is in the form of gas. It's a gas water. It's not peeing or sweating as much as it is just breathing out vapors of water, just as you breathe out vapors of water when you're talking, which is why your mouth gets all dry and you need to keep drinking water, keep it hydrated, because as you talk and the air keeps moving through your mouth, the tissues of your mouth get dried out. So what's the main functions of the cell indicated by the pointer? Well, it's certainly not to store food, right? We know it's not storing food. If you read the document at all, you know that that's not the answer. Number 3, to undergo mitotic cell division. That was not discussed in the reading at all, and no, that's not its primary function, its main function is not to go through mitotic cell division. To give support to the leaf's veins, well, no, not really. Its main function is to regulate how gas is exchanged inside the plant. Remember, it's the opening, it's the mouth for the plant. It's the place where this opening in the stomata opens up right into the tissues of the plant, allowing CO2 in and oxygen out. And unfortunately, so as oxygen comes out, so will water. Here, as the stomata is closed, however, there's no water or oxygen coming out, but neither is CO2 going in. So the plant has to open them up, but tries to open them up at the coolest part of the day. All right, so that's the explanation of these tissues. Really, the answers to the questions were a lot more straightforward, but I gave you some extra information just to try to help you understand what this has to do with anything. And what is this all about? It's about regulation. It's about homeostasis. All right, I hope this helped. Bye-bye.